This is Division 1A. Like everybody needs to come in with a 10 out of 10 standing tuck. Everybody needs to be doing round off handspring pulls. It's like that's where
Hmm.
you need to start. And then we can start to teach you all the elite stunting and the elite pyramids and the elite baskets, all the stuff that's not legal at the high school or the all-star level. That stuff you got to learn here anyway. So come in the door,
Yep.
earn it with your tumbling.
Welcome to episode number 4 of the Here for Cheer podcast. Thank you so much for listening, tuning in, sharing, subscribing, all of that good stuff. We really appreciate your support. Today's guest is so special. It's Dan Weaver. He's the head coach of the University of Minnesota. He is my first college coach guest, and I'm super excited to have him on today. He is a 5-time UCA national champion. Yes, I said that right. 5 times. 2 times as an athlete himself at the University of Delaware, 2 times in a role as a high school coach at Minnetonka, and most recently, a national champion with the University of Minnesota 2025. Super exciting stuff happening, and he's a great leader. He is incredible with recruiting and also team culture, and I'm just excited to have him on today. So welcome to the show, Dan.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. I really just appreciate what you're doing for the whole cheer industry and continuing to push the media side forward and create more resources for people to access our sport outside of the actual walls of the gym.
Yes, yes. So we're going to dive in and start with your time at the University of Delaware. So let's kind of kick it off there and tell us about being an athlete, a college athlete at Delaware.
Yeah, so I was at Delaware. I went into Delaware in 2013, and I actually had no cheer experience before that. So the funny story that goes into that, I was moved in my first weekend of college, and at the time, Delaware needed a few more guys. They were short a few guys, and so the coaches told the girls to go out, just find me some new guys, find me some good athletes that can kind of turn into cheerleaders. And I was one of the guys that was found, and some of the cheerleaders that we're hanging out with. If you're a freshman in college and you're hanging out with some cheerleaders, you're pretty much going to do whatever they say. So they said, you got to come out to a couple practices, and came out and immediately was hooked and absolutely loved it and fell in love with the sport right away. And so I took kind of all of the things that I had learned through playing other sports growing up and
Hmm.
about how to become great at what you do and just dive in and work hard and all that stuff. And I just dove right in and quickly that was all I was doing, right? I was just in the gym all the time. I was stunting all the time. I was trying to do anything I could to become as great as I could be at this new sport that I was diving into. And I didn't really have a context of what great cheerleading was. All I knew was
Hmm.
what I was seeing at practice every day. It was this 2013. It doesn't seem that long ago, but there weren't as many resources with
Hmm.
the social media stuff that we have now, and to be able to have so much access to understand what cheer is like in other programs. By the time you kind of pick your head up and you walk outside of the walls of your program and you see what other people are doing, you realize that you're actually doing some pretty good stuff there. So we had a great team culture there, really hardworking team culture. Everybody wanted to be great at what they were doing, and I was in an alternate role. They didn't trust me to be on the mat at that point, but it was really exciting just to be a part of that whole experience and help Delaware win a national championship at a time where Morehead State looked pretty unbeatable. It was
Hmm.
nice to be able to take them down and win a championship for Delaware. So it was a lot of fun.
I love that. I love that for you. And now you've been under an athlete under some really incredible head coaches.
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit about their impact and kind of the takeaways that you've now brought into your role as a coach.
Yeah. So when I started at Delaware, the head coach is Ben Schreiber, who coached me my first year, and then he got the Ohio State head coach job right after we won that championship in 2014. He was incredible. I mean, he just taught me so much about the level that it took and the training that it took and the intensity that it takes to compete for a championship. And he pushes you hard. He wants you to work hard, and he expects a lot out of you. And that was really great for me. I learned very quickly how to respond to hard coaching, but but understand that that's just love. That's just him wanting you to be great. And so my assistant coach for those first couple of years was Joe Guadagnino, who went on to become the head coach at University of South Florida, and won
Mm-hmm.
a three-peat down there just a few years ago at the D1A co-ed level. So she was fantastic. The two of them really, I mean, they were both just so championship driven, and they just had so many great things to teach.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize how spoiled I was at the time with the level of coaching that I was receiving, but there
Yeah.
wasn't really anything they couldn't teach you. I mean, you could just learn so much from both of them, and they really just held such high expectations and standards for us that you always wanted to rise up to them. And after Ben had left, we got a new head coach who was Rob Ellery. He was a great athlete at the University of Kentucky and, Team USA. Actually, I think all of the coaches I had were on Team USA at some point. And Rob was just so technical, and to learn that you don't need to be the biggest guy in the room anymore. Now you can just learn the technique and the speed and the hands and the grips and all that kind of stuff. All of that was really good to learn from Rob, and he was just so knowledgeable. I mean, there wasn't anything in fear he couldn't teach. So having the balance of learning from two people who have very different styles, it just allowed me to see cheer in a couple of different aspects, and see it through different lenses, and kind of develop my own style from that as well. So yeah, it's just great to see that these people who had such a big impact on me at such a
Mm-hmm.
influential time of my life when you're 18 to 21,
Yeah.
your eyes are just so green to the world, that it's great that I still get a chance to see these people on a regular basis, and connect and check in,
Yeah. I'm sure
and
they're
still
so
have them in my
proud of
life.
you.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's it's
That's
cool to be
great.
on the side. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
talking about that you were an alternate, I
Mhm.
think that speaks volumes of you as a teammate and your character, and that you would stick with it and then go on to win twice for yourself there at that school. What's some advice you would give to an athlete that maybe is in an alternate role or not making the team of their dreams yet? Yeah, what would you give advice for them?
Yeah, that was actually one of the best experiences I got, was being a chance to be on the other side, where I wasn't the one
Mhm.
that was responsible for the skills, but I could see it every day, and I could see what was
Mhm.
working and what wasn't working. And while I wasn't the most knowledgeable about cheer, I had been on teams before, right? I was a captain on other teams when I was in high school and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So about leadership, about what it takes to be great, and you kind of see where the culture is starting to lose. And so I tried to do as much as I could to just be positive, be a light. I kind of felt like when I watched the show Ted Lasso, I kind of felt like that's what I was as an alternate. I was really big, I would say, believe all the time. I was really big on believe. And again, I didn't really know much about cheer, but I knew that Delaware got in second every single year. And I was like, guys, if
Mhm.
we get second, let's just get first. I was like,
Yeah,
let's just
yeah.
take it let's push it over to the next level. And so I just tried to continue to be a positive impact. I'm just spotting wherever I can. I just want to be part of the process. I'm just trying to
Oh.
pick people up where I can. I'm rolling up flags and stuff in between full outs for the team. And so that's something that in my coaching philosophy, I've really tried to implement for all of my alternates as well. And I understand it's hard for a lot of these athletes. And a lot of the athletes on my team, they've been cheering their entire lives. They've always been the star of the show. And so to go from that to now you're an alternate for the first time, where you come in and, well, you're not just the best anymore. Everybody was the best where they came from. So I try to remind everybody that they can have really big impacts on the room just by being present and being engaged and bringing things, and whatever you can bring, try to bring it, because people need that.
Mhm.
And it makes a big difference when everybody in the room is all bought in, not just the people that are actually performing the skills. It doesn't matter who's on the mat. We're all trying to be part of that. And it helped us, kind of get over that threshold this year. But yeah, I just think that there's a lot of value that comes from getting a chance of not just being the star, and you learn and you're able to train on the side. And then by the time your number is called, you're in a better place to do it.
Yeah. That's
Mhm.
great. I love that. Okay, so winning one national championship as an
Mhm.
athlete is incredible and something
Mhm.
that not everyone is able to say that they've done, but you've won twice.
Mhm.
Can you kind of talk about how you keep yourself or how your team was kept hungry, motivated, excited to keep kind of chasing that greatness? Because a lot of times it's hard that you've done it once and people just assume it's going to happen again, not remembering all of that kind of under the iceberg that went into it.
Mhm.
So yeah, can you talk a little bit about that and how to keep them hungry?
Yeah. we were in a really competitive division, right? I mean, it was
Hmm.
before the Moorhead West Georgia rivalry that there is today. It was the Delaware and Moorhead rivalry that it was in that era, and these athletes were Team USA athletes, and so we didn't have that same pedigree of everybody comes in and they're these super elite cheerleaders. We had to be a little scrappier. We had to be a little more hardworking on some of the things, I would say, to kind of get to where we wanted to go. And we loved being
Hmm.
in the gym. We loved working. We loved trying to get better. And we always had really good friendly competition among the team too. So okay, you hit that stun. All right, now I got to hit it. All right. So
Yep.
and we kind of always push each other. And so we had a quote. It was, to win takes talent, to repeat takes character. And so we just tried to not let ourselves get too hung up on the fact that we won once. We won once. Moorhead had won 13 years straight. All right. We can't get too big for our britches here. So to not only be able to win that 2014 year, but to then come back around and win it again in 2015 was awesome. And that's the thing about cheer, especially college cheer, which is just so different from other levels because you only compete the one weekend. So most of the time, 99% of the time that you spend is going to be within the walls of your own program. You only get judged once and you only get that one opportunity where it really matters. So everything that you do is just training for that. So I think there's just something special about the bond that you create through the journey of that. And I think everybody on every sport team and every coach says journey over results, right? It's all about the journey. But in cheer, you really is the journey because
It
the
has to be.
actual end is only this big and everything else is this. And you can't look at that one weekend as this is what it is. I mean, it's the months and months of
Hmm.
training that goes into that. And so when you're having fun, you're just trying to get better, and you find joy in the successes of getting better. I think that's what allows you to continue to grow sustainably.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So then how did you transition into coaching yourself? Did you always kind of think that you'd be coaching a sport or did it fall in your lap? How did this happen?
Yeah, it's funny, you look back and you're like, man, if I had just done one thing very differently, my entire life wouldn't be what it is. And
Yes.
when I dove in, I dove right in. So that freshman year of college, I come home for Thanksgiving break. And you're figuring out what you want to do. You're in college. Everyone's asking what you want to do with your life afterwards. My mom's like, I know you want to be a cheer coach. I know you love this. You just want to do this. And she wasn't wrong. I mean, that was all I
Yeah.
loved doing, was just being in the gym. I absolutely loved it. I fully caught the bug and just wanted to be really good at it and just do it all the time. And, when Jill left as our assistant coach, Rob brought in Ashley Cormier, who was the staffing director for the Northeast for UCA staff. And she had asked me a couple times, hey, can you come just work co-ed stunt clinic and stuff like that? And, they asked, hey, would you want to work for UCA? And I said, well, no, I need an internship for my program going into my senior year. So what's your program? And I said, sport management. And they were like, well, this is perfect. You coach. And I was like, well, they don't see it that way. They don't see
Yeah.
coaching as a sport management internship. And so what they did is they said, okay, we'll be a red shirt. Red shirts are like the camp managers. So you can go to these cheer camps and dance camps and all these spirit camps around the country, and you can get a chance to work on the management side. And so next thing I know, I'm working at a co-ed stunt clinic, and then they tell me, all right, you got an internship next summer. So I started working for varsity the next summer as a red shirt. They brought me in as a red shirt, and turns out they never taught me anything about the management side of it. So I was just in there and I was stunting, and I was fortunate. I was just, I was a great stunner at the time. And so I was kind of able to make a little bit of a name for myself and in the stunting side of it, on the co-ed side. And then I finished up the summer and they asked me to come back out and do some more UCA staffing. And I was like, well, I haven't quite made those hours yet on the red shirt side. And they're like, we're going to sign off. Just come instruct. And I was like, okay, all right. So I definitely found I was a little bit better on the instructing side of cheer. One thing I did know, I was good at teaching people.
Hmm.
And so my coaches kind of saw that in me. And so they kind of put me in good opportunities to just teach. So here I am, I'm applying for marketing jobs and stuff coming out of school, after my senior year of spring, and nothing, wasn't quite getting anything yet, didn't get any offers yet. And then here I am in our UCA staff Facebook group, and opportunity posted from Melissa Scungio, the head coach of
Yeah.
Providence College. And she writes in there, I'm looking for a graduate assistant. I'm looking for a male that could teach co-ed stunts. I'm looking for somebody that could come and work in our office and get experience kind of being the spirit coordinator, managing that side, and then somebody that wants to get their master's degree for free. And I was like, well, check,
Yeah.
check, check. I was like,
Me.
okay, I would take all those.
Yeah.
That's a great opportunity. Reached out to Melissa and we hit it off right away. And so she was able to offer me that position. I quickly turned it around and I was like, okay, I'm going to grad school now. So that allowed me to then continue to work for UCA and did that in the
Mhm.
summers and then went to Providence in the fall and was able to start coaching there. And that was a little bit of a culture shock for me because all I had known about cheer was we're competing for championships. And then going to Providence, it was a non-competitive program at the time. So I had a very different perspective from these athletes that are there, but I had to kind of meet them where they were and help them to kind of get to where we want them to go to. So Melissa had just taken over a year before. She had built up the program at Rhode Island and did really well there. She taught me so much about being a coach and okay, you're great at the skills, but you have to be able to lead people and you have to get them on your same page and meet them where they are and help them go to other places. And, we were watching college nationals in my first year there, and it's only a 2-year program. So we're watching college nationals. We're together all weekend on the couch, just watching it because we're just cheer nerds and we love it. And at the end of it, we're like, we got to do it. Like we got to take Providence to compete and we have to do it this year. At the end of it, it was just the best experience and they loved it and we loved it and we had a great performance. And we're not doing anything that's groundbreaking skill wise, but for us, it was really good. I mean, it was a lot better than
Yeah.
anything we'd be able to do before. We didn't go on to finals, but we weren't expecting that. That wasn't really what
Mhm.
year one was about. It was just kind of getting in the door. And at the end of it, everybody was hungry for next year. That was the biggest win we could have taken away from year one
Mhm.
there. Through that time, I continued to work for UCA. And then from there, I go from, I'm starting to work on UCA's college staff. And so I'm kind of doing the college circuit and stuff like that. And so I'm getting a chance to work with these high profile teams or Alabama's, some of these teams like that. And from there, I was like, okay, well, what do I do? Am I going to be done with cheer? Am I going to just, use my MBA now and just start a business career? And then a group chat starts going off when I'm in class one night. And it's Rob is leaving Delaware. And then I get a call the next morning at 7 a.m. from Rob. And he said, I think you should apply for this. And so I was like, you know what? Like, yes, I know I could make a lot more money using my degree and doing something with my MBA, but I love this. And so why not follow what I'm passionate about? And so I go through that whole process. I kind of get to the end of it all and and they went with somebody else. And so that was really tough for me. I was like, shoot, I don't know what I'm doing. And then I finished my MBA and I don't have a job because I was thinking I was going to be coaching.
Yeah.
And then that year was the first year where I started working for UCA's core staff. One of the trainings I did was out in the Midwest, in Wisconsin, and the group that I was in charge of training was largely Minnesota. So I connected with one of the instructors there. Her name was Abby Thorne, and she was a first-year coach at Minnesota. She had cheered at Minnesota. I left that training, and then I found out the night that I left that training that I didn't get that job, and I was kind of embarrassed because I felt like when you go out and you're talking to everybody, everyone's like, well, what are you doing now? You finished Providence. What's next? And I was like, oh, well, I think I'm going to be coach at Delaware. Oh, and then when you don't get it, you're like, I told so many people I was going to be a coach. I'm not. I was like, oh, this is so embarrassing. So I call Abby and I was like, hey, I'm sorry. This is weird, but like, because I just felt like I needed somebody that was outside of my circle to
Mhm.
talk to. She was like, well, would you want to coach still? And I was like, yeah, I think so. She was like, well, Minnesota is looking for somebody that can do exactly what you do. We just lost our co-ed coach. We're restructuring the program right now. She was like, this is who you need to reach out to. This is Sam Owens. He's the head coach of the Spirit Squad. He's been over the program for almost 30 years at this point. I sent him an email like the next night at like 8 p.m. And at like 4 a.m., I get an email back. And he was like, yes, let's talk today. So he flew me up. I thought it was just going to be for a couple of days for an interview. He flew me out for an entire week, put me up for an entire week, and it was actually Minnesota's June practice week. And so he introduced me as a guest coach to the team. What they didn't know is that was kind of my trial run as their coach. And so
Oh.
he offered me the job the second day I was there and said, how do we make this happen? And it didn't quite get done in time. It was like a couple days before he was like, I need 2 more days to get this set. And I was like, well, preseason starting. And so I was like, well, I kind of put my foot down. I was like, all right, well, I can't come to preseason if I don't have a job. I was like, I'm not going to pack up my life and move across the country if there's no offer yet. And he was like, I promise it's coming. I just got to get this all done. And I was, okay, well, can't come. And I was like, why are you doing this? It's like, you're doing this because you want to do something great. You want to start to create a team that can win championships. And, while you're kind of sticking it to the admin side by not coming, you're also sticking it to the athletes. And so the athletes aren't going to know that you don't have that job offer yet. They're just going to know our coach isn't there on day one of preseason. So I was like, I got to go. Sam Owens is incredible. It's just the, great boss to work for. And he was just so appreciative when I called him and I said, you know what? I am coming. Like, I got to do this right. I got to do it right by the athletes. And so he was like, I'll make sure as soon as you land in Minnesota, you got a job offer in front of you.
What an incredible story. I love hearing all about, and just not only the highlights, the like hardships that you went through along the way and that you just stayed the course. And I'm sure a lot of the things you learned as an athlete were what you were able to take through those tough times. And I think it's so great. And I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
It's really, really incredible. Okay. So now college kids that want to become an athlete at Minnesota, like what are some things that go into your recruiting process? What's the advice that we're going to give to athletes, hoping to cheer at that next level?
Yeah. So that when you come to Minnesota, you're going to cheer in front of 50,000 football fans. You're going to be on national television. You're going to get a chance to travel to bowl games and to Big Ten basketball tournaments and get a chance to do all this kind of stuff. So the caliber athlete that we're looking for needs to match somebody that's earning those experiences. So we restructured things. We moved away from tryouts. And this is my COVID project. I was like, we're going to go full recruiting model. Every single athlete that comes in the door, we're going to recruit. If for no other reason other than when you come to Minnesota, you are coming here to win a national championship. We realized that we need to recruit off 3 different things. We need to recruit off being the right students because it's a great school. It's not easy to get into. You got to be the right student to be here. You got to be the right athlete. So there's the skill set that we're looking for. And then the last part, most important part, is you have to be the right person. Okay, I see that you're at our clinics. I see what you're doing on Instagram and the skills look awesome. I see that GPA. That looks great. Let's go take a tour. Let's talk. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to your family. I want to make sure I know you, kind of know what you're looking for, know what motivates you. I want to see how you interact with me. And if you're somebody that can have a conversation with fans and donors and those kinds of people as well. Are you a yes, please, and thank you type of person? Or are you like, okay, cool. Like you got me tickets to this football game. You put me in a hotel for the weekend. Is there a thank you that comes after that kind of stuff? Right. Like those things I want to know about somebody. So there are, and we had to realize like, okay, there are talented athletes who have the talent to be here who just don't feel like the right fit. There are places for them. There are places for them out there. And there's a lot of people that we maybe didn't offer, but are cheering somewhere else now. But when we switched to recruiting, just the mindset of the room shifted drastically. And so when we came back from the pandemic, we had 2 sets of classes that had never cheered here before. Our sophomores and our freshmen, because the sophomores never got that experience. So these new athletes, and a lot of them were the younger ones, were kind of what we started to build this new culture and foundation off of. So some of the things that we started to look for, we really wanted to have strong tumblers. We wanted people, this is Division 1A. Like everybody needs to come in with a 10 out of 10 standing tuck. Everybody needs to be doing round off handspring pulls. It's like, that's where you need to start. And then we can start to teach you all the elite stunting and the elite pyramids and the elite baskets, all the stuff that's not legal at the high school or the all-star level. That stuff you got to learn here anyway. So come in the door, earn it with your tumbling. You might not have the same resources as somebody else. This other person, their family might have sent them to an all-star gym where they've been taking tumbling the whole time. And you might have come from an all-star or a high school team that didn't have those same resources. Well, guess what? You got YouTube. You got a backyard. All right. You can't, if you want it, you can do it. You
Absolutely.
can't say that about stunting as much, right? Like it's a little more challenging. If people around you aren't great stunters, don't want to, you can't do as much. But tumbling, that's the most individual skill in cheer. So that tells me, are you somebody that wants to work for it, or are you somebody that's waiting on people to make it happen for you? And it's cool when you start to see like, oh, this person could have cheered at this team who just won a national championship last year, and they chose to come to Minnesota over that program. And that's because I try to sell the entire experience. I was like, this is not just about, it's not just about winning nationals. It's like, that's a big part of it. That's a huge goal, but you get a chance to cheer in front of 50,000 fans of football. You get a chance to get this entire experience. I was like, you also get the personal care of, you're not a number here. Like everybody is hand selected. And we're gonna have a relationship, and I'm gonna make sure that I talk to you and I'm gonna know you and I'm gonna check in on you, and all that kind of stuff too. And that's how I try to run the program. But my role can kind of shift a little bit more to the full management of making sure that we are on the track that we need to be on, and we have the environment that we need to be on, and that we're pushing at the intensity that we need to be pushing at. And
You've made a
so,
great name for yourself in that
yeah,
way. So now
thank you.
how can recruits get noticed by you? Like what's your best piece of advice for someone that maybe is not seeing you right in Minnesota or nearby, but they want you to recognize them and be recruited.
Yeah, I always say make yourself visible,
Mhm.
and that's something that I think a lot of kids forget that they have to do sometimes. As college coaches, I mean, I only have so much time in the day, and other coaches probably have less time than I do, right? So,
Mhm.
so you have to make yourself visible. You have to email coaches, send videos, all right, fill out recruit questionnaires. I always recommend people have a cheer Instagram. I think a cheer Instagram is great. Okay, so if I'm a high school senior or high school junior right now, at Dan Weaver Cheer. All right. And then follow your programs that you're looking at and post your skills videos, post your tumbling videos, post your stunting videos, post what you're working on. All right. I can now see you in, 2 minutes on my phone.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, they have what it takes. Like they have the skills that we're looking for. Okay. Boom. Now your GPA is in your Instagram bio. Okay. They're a 3.8 student. Okay. This person's checking off the student and the athlete already. All right. Now let's figure out if they're the person. And then I could shoot a message. Hey, skills look great. Would love to connect and talk about our program. And then maybe we hop on a Zoom call. That goes well. We try to get you up here and all that kind of stuff. And so very easy, and it's a lot cheaper than people think it is, because sometimes people sign
Mhm.
up for these recruiting, web
Tools
services and
and yes.
stuff. And I'm like, you don't need to do all that, guys. It's 2025. I was like, everybody's on their phone. Just create an Instagram, follow people, put yourself out there, tag us and stuff. All right, we're gonna see it. We might not see the first one, but keep tagging us. We're gonna see it at some point. And if you're posting stuff that we are interested in, we're gonna get in contact with you. So that's my biggest thing, is just try to make yourself visible. From there, I always want to see athletes on our campus. I want to see you at our clinics. We don't have tryouts, but I can see all this great stuff that you can do on Instagram, but it really is impactful if I see you do it with one of our stunt groups.
Mhm.
So if you're on our campus, and okay, I actually saw that tumbling pass live, and I saw, okay, you have a full. Do you have it? Like I can just warm it up and do it, or is it like, okay,
Yes.
all right, like all that stuff. So that makes a difference as well in kind of the way that I see everybody. And some things, I can see, okay, if you're a phenomenal stunter, but you're a little mental about your pool, all right, you can live with that. Okay.
Mhm.
If you're kind of not at the highest end of any of those skill sets, it might not be the right fit here. And again, it gets harder and harder every single year to cheer,
Mhm.
at this level, is what I always say. And that every year the freshmen that come in are better and better and better, but that's because they get better. And so these good people now want to come cheer with them.
Yeah.
That, a couple years ago, you weren't at that level. So people didn't, they looked elsewhere if they were at that talent level. So
And
that's the
what
biggest thing.
year? Like freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, like what do you feel is the most impactful year that they need to be making themselves known?
I think junior year is a great place to get started. So for our process, we'll start signing athletes as early as November
Mhm.
of their senior year. But going into that, I want to see you at clinics throughout kind of the spring of your junior year. Get on our radar. I keep my recruiting sheet updated all the time. So I recruit you by position. I'm like, okay, this is an all girl top. All right, here's how many all girl tops are graduating next year. So I only have 1 or 2 spots for that. So who are the people that I'm really looking at for that spot? So the earlier that you get on our radar, always the better. We have some
Mhm.
kids. We have a freshman now, who we've been looking at her since she was probably in 8th grade. But she came to every single one of our clinics. She's a Minnesota kid, came to every single one of our clinics. And so it was almost like we're just waiting on you to get to be college age,
Mhm.
because you were just so visible. Now that's not always as easy. She's from Minnesota. She's 30 minutes away. So coming to clinics, it's easy for her. If you live in Colorado, all right, or if you live
Mhm.
in New Hampshire, it's not
Yes.
necessarily, I can fly out every clinic you have, right? The budget does extend at this certain point. Um, so yeah, getting at once or twice is awesome if you're a little further away. I definitely want to see you on campus. I want to see you at a clinic and see you working with the team, and then come and introduce yourself again. Make yourself known. We want to make sure that you put yourself in a position where you're showing genuine interest as well. I'm very blessed to be in the position that I'm in, to be at a major Division I school. So the way I recruit
Hmm.
is very different than the way that I see a lot of these other programs recruit. So when I go to these recruiting combines, and I usually go to about 4 or 5 a year, all different cities and stuff. And when I'm there, I'm usually one of the only Division I schools there. Most of the other schools are actually D3 or NAIA schools, and these are stunt programs, and these smaller schools who aren't going to be somebody that you maybe think about first time when you think about college cheer.
Hmm.
Um, we're fortunate that we are the size of a school that you would kind of think about when you start thinking about college cheer. You think about Division I. You're not thinking about Division III usually. So,
Yes.
so we're very fortunate that it makes it a little bit easier on us. But what I always recommend to athletes is you should go to those things because you can see different types of programs. It's not D1 or bust, it's
Yes.
not
Yes.
there's so many great programs out there. And sometimes we get these great kids and I meet these great kids and they're like, yeah, like I can do these great stunts. They're like, but I don't tumble that well. And I was like, well, I'm sorry that might not work out with us, but like there are stunt programs who would eat you up and love to
Yes.
have you in their program. If you can
Yes.
stunt the way you can, they don't need to put you in tumbling. They don't need to put you
Yes.
in jumps, but they can put you in that stunt sequence. And so I always recommend that people just get out to at least 1 or 2 combines so that way you can just see the world of college cheer so differently than what you probably think of when you just think of it in your bedroom and scrolling on Instagram. One of the things I hate about my job is that sometimes I feel like I have to end an athlete's relationship with their sport. And there are some kids who are like, "Hey coach, I'm coming to Minnesota. I would love to cheer." And they maybe don't quite have it. And, I have to tell them no, and I don't have a spot for you. And the thing that like very few things will kind of keep me up at night, but sometimes I'm like, man, like I was the last no that they're gonna receive that ended their
Ugh.
time cheering, and that breaks my heart, and I absolutely hate that, and so I try to if it is a no for me, I usually s I will usually offer some advice. I'm like, "Hey, it might not be here." I was like, "But you should look at these programs," and
Hmm.
I firmly believe that there is a college cheer program for every athlete that wants to cheer in
I
college.
agree with you. I say that
Uh
to my kids in our program all the time. I
Mhm.
1,000%. Well, I mean, it sounds like you are such a coach of impact. I mean, you can tell that from everything that you're expressing about how passionate you are about not just the winning, but the process and the people that, the lives you're able to touch. And as a mom, that's so important to me. And I think
Great.
so many times our children, so my oldest daughter is going to be a freshman
Yes.
in high school. And, she may just see the bells and whistles of winning
Mhm.
but I, as a parent, want someone that's gonna take care of my child
Mhm.
in a way that's impactful beyond her number on a mat or
Right.
her skill set, like,
Mhm.
all the things that you're speaking of.
Mhm.
So I think that's so important. So what would your advice be to parents? Like, what is the best thing that they can do to support their child to help in this journey, in this process? Because I think a lot of us are lost, and
Right.
unsure how to help guide them. I know you've given the great tips of the Instagram and the combines, but what else should we be doing as parents to really support our athletes?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, um, I don't believe that parents need to be as involved as some parents feel like they need to be to get their kid to the next level.
Mhm.
Sometimes just this weekend, right, where kids are coming up to the table, and I want to meet your parents. So, I want to meet them. But when I say, "Hey, what are you looking for?" If the parent starts answering for them, I'm like, "Okay,
Mhm.
they're not ready yet."
Yes.
Right. So, I'm actually going through, I'm always going through like coaching and development books and stuff. And one of the ones that we've been going through as a staff this year, it's called Gen Z Unfiltered. And it just talks about the different generations and why different generations are different. But one of the things that I think a lot of people run into is that they try to clear the path so much
Mhm.
that it doesn't allow the child to walk the path, right? So what we try to say is don't clear the path, prepare them to walk the terrain, right?
Mhm.
So give them the tools to, you can support them and saying, hey, you should be emailing coaches, right? You should be
Yep.
here are combines. Hey, I'll take you to that combine. All right. But when you're there, you got to allow them the space to be the adult and to start to learn that. And that's one of the cool parts about this sport. And one of the things I always tell people, I'm like, guys, like you're going to fail in our gym, right? But better to fail here than it is to fail out there. Learn those lessons here. Be okay with learning how to lose a little bit. So it's the same idea. Let's learn it in this sport, right? So as you go through the
Yes.
recruiting process, empower the kids to email, to reach out, to do their research about what they want. And you don't have to do it for them. We can start to kind of see some of those kids who sometimes it feels like the parents want it a little bit more than they want it.
Mhm.
And that's, a tough place to be in. So make sure that you're on the same page with your kid and let them drive the bus. All right. Let them, if you want to cheer in college, this is what you have to do. But you got to drive that bus and I'll support you. All right. But you can't drive it for them. So,
Yes, I love that. That's
that's one of the
great.
biggest
Great
things.
advice. And
Yeah.
then so now once they're a freshman in your program or they're,
Mhm.
starting in your program, what's the biggest tip for success then? Now they're suddenly thrown into the real world
Mhm.
as, like you said, an 18-year-old,
Mhm.
kind of maybe not having experienced these kind of things before. What is your tip for success for that athlete?
Yeah. A conversation I have with freshmen every year: be okay with being bad.
Mhm.
You're going to come in and you've been a star your entire life. That's how you got here. All right. You've always been one of the best athletes in your team. Well, guess what? You're a freshman. All right. And you're going to be bad at a lot of things now. You're going to be bad at what our game day, we're game day national champion, right? You're not going to come in and be able to do the motion standards that we have for game day, right? You're going to be
Uh-huh.
bad at that. You're going to come in and you're learning college pyramids for the first time. They weren't legal at the high school level. It's all new. You're going to be bad at that. All right, you're going to be stunting in a new environment with new people who maybe stunt a little bit different with their technique, and you might be a little bit bad at that. Be okay with that. Where I find a lot of people have a hard time making that adjustment because they've always been so good, and they've always found
Mhm.
so much of their identity and their worth and their talent. And now you got to flip that. All right. You suck. All right. You suck for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's okay to suck a little
Yeah.
bit. All right. That's how we
Yeah.
get better. I was like, you're
Absolutely.
not going to be bad forever. I was like, you're just going to be bad for a little while. And you have to mentally be okay with that, because when you mentally accept that I'm not the best at this right now, then you allow yourself to mentally start to learn. But
Mhm.
we start to sometimes get these kids who are when they realize they're not good at something, they either avoid it or they get very in their feelings about receiving feedback on it,
Mhm.
because that's where their identity has been for so long. And so that's some of my biggest advice is like, you got to come in with humility, come in knowing that you're a freshman. And last year when you were a senior on your high school team, all right, and there was a freshman that came in, she wasn't great either, right? Well, that's you now. All right. And I know it's
Mhm.
hard to make that switch because you were a captain last year and you were the star, but you're not anymore. So you have to learn. And some of the kids who have a hard time with the ego side of it, and just and it's not, I would say it's a little bit more in the avoidance of it, right?
Mhm.
Like, okay, I'm not as great at this. And so I maybe don't want to ask for extra opportunities. I don't want to, ask for that in open gym time. And I was, well, that's really exactly what you should be working on, is work on your
Mhm.
weaknesses, work on those things, and become a little bit more developed. So the people that I think do really well are the ones that are able to accept that they're in a learning space. And once you identify that you're in a learning space and you're in a growing space, that's when
Mhm.
people usually do really well. Mhm.
Yeah, and trusting the process, and like you
Yeah.
said early on that you were the believe
Mhm.
guy,
Mhm.
you've had to trust the process
Mhm.
so many times in your journey
Yep.
in this sport and just kind of believe that better things are coming, and they always have, it's always
Yeah.
worked out, and so that's, I think, a really important piece as well, and
Yeah.
great. Okay, so now you have been not only on championship teams, now you've led and coached. What is the one thing, if you had to pick one, that separates a good team from a great team?
Yeah. Um, I think it's full team buy-in. Full team
Mhm,
buy-in to exactly what you're doing. So, one of the things that helped us kind of push over the edge last year, we brought in a mindset specialist. His name is James Silvis, and he works with a lot of like Fortune 500 companies. But then he started to kind of create this niche market that he works with, like spirit teams. He works some cheer teams and dance teams, and we were able to bring him out, and he works with us. And he was like, okay, well, what's the goal? And so many people. It's like half of the team, or half of the leadership team, said we want to win a national championship. The other half had a hard time saying that. And in the back of their minds, that's what they want. But what happens if you don't reach it? And then is the whole season a bust? Was it, and so that's why we had this really hard time defining what our goal was. And he was like, guys, you have to realize that if you're going to do it, you have to be fully bought in, and everybody has to get committed to what you're doing. And you have to say it out loud, and you have to talk about it. And once you
mhm,
talk about it, then you can start to grow towards it and realize that everything you're doing is in pursuit of that. So that was one of the biggest things that I also struggle with too. I was like, do we say it? Do we not say it? Because I also in the
mhm,
same boat. I'm like, yes, obviously we want to win. We're doing all this stuff to do it. But like, if we don't win this year, does that mean that the whole thing was a bust? And
mhm,
so I struggled with all of it too. And it almost gave me the permission to say, all right, you have to talk about it, and you have to have everybody on the same page. And everybody in the program, whether you are the star of every stunt at every pyramid, or you are an alternate and you're just here to learn this year, everybody has to be fully bought into it. And you have to understand that when the days get hard and you're doing it again and doing it again and doing it again, all right, coaches are getting on you about certain stuff, that you realize that we're not just being jerks about it. All right. We're not just doing it. We're doing it because this is what everybody in the room decided is what we want to do.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so that's the biggest thing, is once you can get the entire room to buy in, all right, and everybody's committed, and it takes the personalness out of it all. Of it feels like he's just getting on me today. It's because we just want to be great, and that's what we're all trying to do. And I remind them of that too. I'm like, guys, like, I know this is hard, but if you want to be champions, this is what it requires today. And
Mhm.
and when that happens, they're like, let's do it. All right, let's run conditioning, like that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So that was our game changer, was full team buy-in. Talk about your goals, get after your goals. Don't don't leave it open-ended. All right, talk about your goals and get after them, and be okay if you don't achieve it. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay, but
That's
you got to be in pursuit of it.
incredible advice
Mhm.
across not only for a college program, but for an all-star high school. I mean, everybody. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that great stuff. Okay, so what's next? Like, what's your big goal?
Mhm.
What's coming up for either the University of Minnesota or for you personally? Yeah. What's
Yeah.
what's looking ahead?
So this past year we won game day, which was awesome. First year winning game day, and we had a great routine. We took second in our traditional routine this year. Now we got to win them both.
Yes.
So that's as we talk about our goals, we were talking about our goals pretty much since we got back from nationals last year, and as that crew graduated and we kind of get the new leadership team in and stuff, we talk about it. The goal is to win them both this year. We want to win traditional and game day. We feel like we have the team that can do it. We're a very, very young team this year. This is the youngest team I've ever had. I have 18 veterans. I have 18 rookies, 16 freshmen, 2 transfers. So it's it's a lot of work right now, kind of getting everybody up to our speed, and it's a little bit of a slower process getting everybody up on like college pyramids and game day and all that kind of stuff. So, when we get into practice tonight, it's just pretty much going to be mostly all material and motions and getting football ready.
Yep.
But we see the talent in the room. We see the way that they work. I mean, we have open gym that's probably getting started in a couple minutes here, and I'm sure most of the team is going to be there right now,
Great.
working because they just want to get better. So we have a team full of people that really want to work hard, which is very, very fun to be in a room with when everybody shows up and wants to get better.
Yep.
But yeah, the goal is to win them both. And one of the things we've talked about in cheer is that it's a subjective sport, right? You're getting judged, and it's not going to be perfect every time. Judges aren't perfect, and I try to tell my team, I'm like, guys, I'm not somebody that usually argues with judges, because they're not going to get it right, and we knew that
Mhm.
going in. All right,
Yes.
so what we have to do is be better than the margin of opinion. We have to make
Yes.
sure that we're not winning by point 1 or point 2, because really, you get a different judging panel and they could have saw it the other way. I was like, you
Yes.
need to be winning by 2 points. I was like, you need to be winning by 3 points. You need to be better than the margin of opinion. So that's going to be our goal this year, is to kind of shut the door, make sure that we're smacking routines, and that we're doing things that we can do. And so, we go to UCA camp, and we're putting out skills already that we know that we want to compete. We're working pyramids that we want to compete. And they're like, should we be doing that in front of this team? And I was like, guys, if they could, they would, right? Like, that's
Yeah.
how I want you guys to see it, is be so good that if other people could do it, they would do it, right?
Yes.
So that's kind of the pursuit that we're in. We're trying to take that next step and not just be a one-time champion. We're trying to become the next kind of sustainable big dog. So the sustainability is going to be huge for us. And when we look at not just the cheer team here, but we look at the whole Spirit program, dance, 23-time national champions now. They just got selected to be the U.S. national team. They won
Incredible.
gold. So that's a big part of our program as well. And we're so close with them. We're all under the same umbrella, right? So
Love that.
what I would like to do is I would like to be the ultimate goal is to be the first program to sweep at nationals and to win
Yes.
dance, cheer, and mascot all at the Division 1A level. Every division we compete in, I would like to win first. And I think we're one of the few programs that actually has the real potential to do it. So,
Let's go.
so that's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate goal. It might not happen this year, but that's like the ultimate place where I would like to see our Spirit program be, is the best in the country.
Ah,
Mhm.
amazing. Well, this was a great interview today. You're incredible. You are so motivating and inspirational. You're a gift to our industry and our sport. I mean, truly, you got it right, all the pieces, and there are so many things that I'm taking away from it myself. And I mean, I've been a coach for over 20 years, and I got so many great things that I'm excited to bring back to my team and to my athletes. And just touching on becoming a college athlete, I think there's not enough resources out there
Mhm.
for kids and for parents to really understand the process. And you've given so many great takeaways that they'll be able to utilize now and start implementing to, reach those dreams and reach those goals and have some also the reality of how hard it is.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah,
how
yeah.
hard it is to
Mhm.
compete at that next level.
Mhm.
But there is a school for everyone, and I love that
Yeah,
you shared that as well. So you're great. I'm such a
yeah.
fan, and I'm so grateful that you came on today. How can people get in touch with you if they want to reach out to you for any kind of more leadership help or just to reach out to you and your program at Minnesota?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate all the kind words. It's been a real joy being on. Yeah, if you want to get connected with us, at Go for Cheer on Instagram is the best way. You can always reach out through email as well. But the biggest connection, we have minnesotacheer.com. It's gonna have all of our clinics on there. We also keep all of our events on there. Recruiting info is key. So we also kind of map it out. If you're a freshman in high school, this is what you should be doing right now. If you're, a senior in high school, this is what you should be doing. So we kind of keep a roadmap for everybody of all of our processes on there. And then our contact info is on there too. So if you're somebody that's interested in cheering at the next level or learning about our program or just, learning more, I always love to talk cheer. I always love to come
Hmm.
out and work with teams and speak at camps and all that kind of stuff too. So, I try to make sure that I'm accessible to the industry as much as I can be. Mhm.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you again so much, and I'll see you soon. And good luck to your team this year.
All right. Thank you, Megan. I appreciate you and good luck with everything you're doing.
Thank you.